Diaz Gunners Collective. Back at it? You already know. Guard! Oh, hell nah. And another one. I said another one. Like a mother smack at it. Orale, you can tell by that thumbnail right there. Mi paisas. Mi compitas. Ese paisano was handling with it, right? People have been asking me lately and over and over again in abundance in the comments, what's up with the Paisa carro? What's up with the Paisas and how do they rock behind them walls and how do they rock on the calles? Now, we all know when you're dealing with the Mexican nationals or the Paisas, and some people take it as a derogatory term saying the word Paisa. I don't. Paisa is just meaning a native of that city. If you're from that town in Mexico, that's your paisano, that's your Paisa, right? You guys are from the same spot. You guys are from the same area. That's like having someone that has the same name as you. That's your tocayo, right? It's the same thing. You know what I mean? My tocayo, orale, what's happening with it? The Paisa is the same thing. And of course, it's a word that was grasped. Another label thrown on people that they ran with, right? Nothing wrong with it. Now, my interaction with the Paisas was minimal at best, but there were places that I did rock with them. And I do have stories about them on the streets, as well as in a menudo style in direct fashion, stories about them behind the walls. Now, for anyone that's never been around a Paisa in the prison, I think you've seen that San Quentin video a long time ago where the Placa was actually disrespecting the gente saying, oh, they're over there by the toilets and it's because nobody wants that area and they only get that area and they're pushed towards the bad areas, and that's furthest from the truth. First and foremost, Paisas are our people. If you're a raza, that's where we're derived from. You can't deny it. They might not like you at all times. You might not like them at all times. But at the end of the day, they are not to be oppressed and persecuted and shit on because, period, they are our people. You know? Now, I might not have been born in Mexico, but I got familia that was. I got familia that got ranchos in Zacatecas and Juarez. And I got love for my gente, love for my people. And I know where I come from. I come from food stamps, cucarachas, and paisas. Vivo de tres animales, los bookies for reals. Let's get it, right? One thing I do know about the paisas is they're a slept-on group. People think that they could oppress them or hate on them just because maybe English is their second language or maybe they think they don't know what's up. But that's furthest from the truth. At the end of the day, the Paisas are up to par. They know what time it is. They get down as real. And believe me, if you approach them in a derogatory or an offensive manner, they're going to get off where they're mad at. You know, if you don't got love for your people and you're brown, then I don't know what to tell you. Es dispensa la tira. One thing I will say for sure, coming from the gun, I got love for the gente, for the Paisas. Now, the Paisas are real. My first interaction with them in prison, or let me take it back a little bit further than others, right? In YA, you know, there was Paisas, but they didn't have a group. They kind of just got in where they fit in. When I was in Fred C. Nellis, the Paisas rocked with the Southsiders. Wasn't very many of them, but the ones that were there, they rocked together with the Southsiders. But they really never got involved in anything that didn't concern them. If it was politics between North and South or things that happened, it seemed like the Paisas were on the outside looking in. They just never involved themselves, and they didn't have to involve themselves. They kicked it who they kicked it with. If they had a celly that was a South Side or even a Norteño, because at that time, the Paisas could be sold up with anybody. If they had someone that was raza that they rocked with, they were going to rock with them. Just like any other man. They didn't hesitate to, you know, defend the casa, defend their household, defend their fucking cell. That's just what it was. That was the get down. But they stood and kept their nose up out of people's business because, hey, as far as they were concerned, they were from Mexico and none of the politics that involved North and South or Bulldog or anything else, guard, involved them. Now, that's actually a smart move. You know, if you don't have to participate, if there won't be no funk, don't start no funk. Or don't participate in funk if you don't need to. And so they kept it at a distance. But they weren't slept on as a people because there was plenty of times in the CYA Youth Authority, I seen Paisas go heads up with people till they were fed up. Now, that was hard, right? And a lot of these guys had hands. You picture a Paisa and automatically you assume, oh, they're short, they're hard workers, they're over there doing roofing, they're in front of Home Depot. Shout out Home Depot, real talk. And this is what you tend to think. But real life and in real life, facts, you know, they're not to be slept on. They're not to be punked. They're not to be criticized or ridiculed because these vatos will get down just like any other man. I don't even know why we're having this conversation. That's it. The proof is in the pudding. They don't play. Graduating to prison. Not a great graduation, huh? But it happens in life. I'm going to prison. My first interaction with the Paisas in prison, I kind of got the rundown from the homie and I could, okay, the Paisas don't kick it with us in here. Charlies, they don't. You know, they associate with the Southsiders and they rock on that side of the yarda. Now, I've told you the way the yardas were back in my days was the Usos, Asians, others, the blacks, and the Norteños had one side of the yard, whereas the Southsiders, the whites, the Native Americans, and the Paisas controlled the other side of the yard. Now, there was a lot of interaction between, more so interaction between Paisas and Norteños than there probably would have been between Norteños and Southsiders, other than a Buenos Dias. But one thing is for sure, they definitely knew where they stood, and they definitely would stand side by side with their fellow Mexicanos being the Southsiders. Now, a lot of people like to say, well, it's because the Norteños up north, you know, always antagonize them or oppress the Paisa, and that's furthest from the truth. I know in my barrio, a lot of our family members were Paisas. A lot of our family members were second generation, come from Mexico. So there was never none of that. We, in my barrio, always were of the firm understanding that these were our people. They might not be claiming the neighborhood. They might not be in the barrio like that, but they're in the barrio like that. Okay, if you see a palatero man, if you see someone selling corn on the cuts, if you see a vato slinging oranges on the corner, he's to be respected because he's working hard for what he has. You know, and no money, no money, right? And they're doing what they do. Now, at the end of the day, yes, some did get victimized in Northern California, just like Southern California. If people think that someone has the victim written all over their face, it's written all over your face. You don't have to say your word. They're going to run up on you. And it wasn't because they were a paisa. It was because they felt that this individual had the victim written all over him. There was no way that he could call the authorities to assist him or help him because he probably didn't have papers. So they seen him as easy targets. Now, I myself never involved myself, nor did I condone any of that, because at the same time, these were my people. See, I was brought up in a household, maybe not speaking Spanish every day of the week, but totally understanding the history of my people and the cultura, and knowing that, hey, my tío right there with the silver king, own hairy chest and a big old hat, that's Tío Jaime. Don't play. And he does it, right? Don't start no stuff. Won't be no stuff. Because orale, Jaime's going to kick his ostrich boot straight up your asshole. And that's just what it was. But in facts and in real life, it did seem like a lot of people oppressed them, and they continue to this day. You know, you see the palatero man's getting robbed or hurt, and it's because people think it's easy prey. You know, this is a dog-eat-dog world. Not Fresno, but this is a dog-eat-dog world we live in. There's victims, there's predators, and there's prey, homes, and that's just how it is. And Spencer Latira has to be that way, but it's always been that way. Now, Mexicanos that come to the States to establish for their familias and work hard so they could go back to their countrymen and establish a rancho and just live their best life, I'm not mad at. It's not like they're coming over here to do bad things. They're coming over here to work. They're coming over here to progress. They're coming over here to get some of that honey from the land of milk and honey and go back and take it to their peoples. You can't be mad at someone working hard for what they got. But it seems like the common understanding is that the Paisas get, find themselves in certain situations that they're doing bad. And that's totally not the case, man. Most of them are doing good. But just like any other group, whether sprinkle the woods in, brother, whether it be the whites, the Norteños, the Southsiders, the Chicanos, or whatever the case may be, we are all going to find ourselves caught up and going to prison behind our actions. You know, just because a vato is a Paisa and can't speak no English or whatever the case may be, doesn't mean he's not in the mix. He might be in the mix heavily, even more than you know so. Now, I'm going to separate Paisas from different organizations in Mexico because I don't speak on them people because that's their business. But there are some Paisas that come over and all they want to do is work, and they find themselves caught up in a situation, and now they are going to prison. What happens in prison? Do you think there's some suckers or some poop butts? I'm going to tell you that. No, they're not. They're down. I've met some Paisas that are with the business. Now, people always ask me about their car, their carro. How is it looked at? How is it presumed in prison? Are they about that mix? Are they with that funk? Are they down with the smoke? You know, of course they are. If you're going to the California Department of Corrections, if you're going within that system, you have to be able to handle your business. You can't be the one to lay it down. It doesn't matter where you're from. It matters where you're at. That's real clecha, knowledge you can't get in college. You know, and if you think the Paisas are going to break anything down to anyone, well, you're really confused and you got your fools mixed up like Bretton Wood, because that's what's never going to happen. Now, I'm asked about my people, the Paisas, and I'm asked, do they rock hard? Do they involve themselves in politics? Well, just like any other group that's incarcerated, you might not want to involve yourself in it, that's it, but you're pulled into that vortex. You're definitely going to involve yourself in what needs to be handled on that yarda. Now, the Paisas are known to hustle. And when I say hustle, I'm not talking about drogas and gambling and things of that nature. That's pretty much sold up on the yarda by those that need it to be sold up by. But what they do is they do a lot of sewing, a lot of looking out. There's vatos in there that could draw. There's vatos in there just got hustle. They put some hustle behind their muscle. Hard working people. These are what we're derived from. Anyone that feels that they could take advantage of the gente, just because there's not very many of them incarcerated, maybe not in the States, in the feds, they're deep. That's different. We're going to leave that alone. I ain't never been there, but I don't know. Some states different, right? But one thing is facts. In the California Department of Corrections, they're looked at as a group just like any other that will handle theirs. Now, of course, people say, well, they're subservient to the South Side. The South Side is going to rock and they're going to dictate their program. Again, furthest from the truth. Every man has his own voice. Every man has his own ability to participate in what he truly wants to participate in. If they feel some type of way about a situation, they're going to voice that, is it? As you see on that thumbnail, that's a Paisa carro right there, down with theirs. Now, over the years, there's been plenty of groups or organizations of Paisas that have sprung up, like Barrio Aztecas. And of course, you have the group that claim Border Brothers, which is totally different in the feds. It's an organization that's different from what it is in, say, Oakland, California, the BBs, right? But they're down with their shit. They're down with their business, and they're derived from Mexicanos, from brown. Okay, at the end of the day, because North and South has had their conflictions and have their aggressiveness towards each other and, their disagreements, doesn't mean the Paisas always lean one way or the other. Now, they choose to rock with the South Side because that's just the way it is. They get incarcerated, they're going to go with the flow. They're going to go with their gente. They're going to go with the people. Now, one thing I always hated, facts, about prison was the gente that try to wiggle on by and play our people by trying to associate with them because they know Spanish and they're too scared to do a pinche burpee. Oh my, right? They're scared. So I actually am going to tell you a story right now about how me and a couple Paisas had to handle some business on a norteño that actually tried to play the Paisa role. So trip out on this, right? So you already know the Paisas rock on the south side of the yard and they affiliate pretty tough with them. What they got going on, I can't sit here and tell you the intricacies and the details about their plight because at the end of the day, I was on the other side of the yard going un uso doing burpees, right? But one thing I do know is for sure is whatever they had going on, they were doing it to the fullest. I've been involved in melees against the Paisas, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. And when it comes down to it, my people before your people, and that's just our people. We the people. Orale, the woods are like, now you're talking, bro. Can I get a shot of coffee, though? Right? And that's just, guard! Do what you do with that. This is how we get down. Now, I had got out of prison. And I got out active and I was functioning within my city. And I thought I was that one or somebody at least affiliated with that one. And I had a prima. And I went to these ghetto-ass apartments with cucarachas. When I say cucarachas, I mean there was more cucarachas than people ever lived in those apartments. If you knocked the wall down, it became alive. It got to the point where you were walking up the stairs to the apartments. Oh, hell no. It sounded like snap, crackles, and pops. You were stepping on cucarachas. The cucarachas took over the outside. They were posted. They were posted like this. They said, okay, you can't even knock on the door without breaking bread, like Jesus said. That's how many cucarachas were in this ghetto-ass apartment complex. But anyways, my prima lived there. I tell you, we're ghetto. And I knocked at her door. I went over there because I was trying to get a hold of my primo, her brother. Actually, it was her tío. She's my second generation prima, meaning her mom is my prima. And then she's the daughter. So anyways, I went and knocked on the door. Break bread, like Jesus said. And I'm looking for my primo because he owed me a little feria. And I need that $50 to make me holler, right? So she opens the door, all tirada. What's up, primo? I get out of here, funky bunch. Hey, where's your tío at? She said, no, he's not here. He's out there trying to hustle. Yeah, is that right? I hope he hustles my 50 because I'm going to go ahead and need that. And then I see her old man. And like a bestia, I came out, my horns went and stood right there. My antennas were going everywhere. And speaking of cucarachas, I was on it, right? I said, trip out. Let me get at your old man. And she was like, no, he's cool. See, she was doing some undercover-ish. She had him in the cuts, but I happened to see him. We had been looking for this vato for a while. And I'm going to tell you why we had been looking for this vato. Now, he was from a group and a gang in Merced. I'm not even going to speak on it, but those that know him. They called him Sugar Bear, right? This individual, while we were in county jail, chose that if for no other reason, he was going to rock with the Paisas, meaning he went to the tank 2, which was the Paisas, or we call it the block 2, which was general population was the Paisas. Of course, Norteños in Merced, they have an active Norteño pod. Southsiders have theirs. That's just the way it is. Don't tell me the politics I know, right? So this vato went with the Paisas. and chose that if for no other reason he was going to rock with his people. Now he cried to everyone talking about, I'm a Mexicano at the end of the day. This is what I am. I found Jesus. Órale Jesus, get behind me. Satan, get behind me. And he was no longer going to rock a norteño. Now I grew up with this vato. He was younger than me, but at the same time, he always had a red paño in his pocket. He was doing that norte thing. There was no way to switch up. The switch up would get you switched off. Period. Plain and simple. It's just the way it is. It's the way we rock. So I already knew the way we looked at it as a gente. This vato was on the lista. This vato was on the BNLs. He was no longer in good standings because he chose to basically turn his back on the cause and the gente. Now at the same time, that's a cowardice act. And even more than that, so man, he's going to be over there in prison rocking with the Southsiders, kicking it, going against his own people if it comes time. And he did. So on several occasions while being incarcerated, because he went through the whole motions, he had to go do a couple years in prison. He was affiliated, and of course, he kept it true blue, right? And he kicked it with the Paisas. Now, the Paisas, him, the way he looked like, he was able to function and affiliate and associate with them. They embraced him. They didn't know better. They didn't know. They didn't trip off a couple Norte tattoos he had that he ended up getting covered with Hecho in, right? But you were born in Planada. Anyway, watch out. The vato gets locked up. He's in the county from the county. We already want him. We can't get to him. He gets to prison, and we're hearing stories about how he got in melees against the homeboys, and all. We're really on him. So here it is a couple years later, and I'm looking into the eyes of a fat demon, and I said, oh honey, forget the 50. I'm about to give him a bond 50, right? And so I'm like, sure, let me get at you, bro, out here. And his lady, my prima, she's like, no, you always start stuff. You think you're all bad. Stop it. I don't want to hear you right now. I'm going to tell your mom on you. Oh, yes, I will. Right? Get over here, fat boy. So he gets out wearing his boxers. What's up, homie? Damn, bro, it's been a minute since I said, sans, double up, I pulled him out of the house, right? I tended to get off. I don't know what type of hands them are, but they did that, right? So I put hands on him. The Vato's over there looking like the Mexican OT trying to, right? I throw him back to the house. Get out of here, right? I said, hey, I know where you're at now, Patan. Son. He's like, hey, bro, I'm just doing my thing. I don't claim Norte no more. And that's why I want you. So what happens is I have a homeboy named Champion. My homeboy Champion, and I've told stories about him. Man, that's the realest Paisa I've ever met in my life. That's my homeboy. He's basically from the barrio, but not from the barrio, but he's always in the barrio, so he's from the barrio. Anyways, from hood to hood, he's a classic, And he's with the homies, meaning he'll get off where he's mad at, even if he gets locked up. Somos un norteño, right? He's down. He's just down. But he's a paisa. He can't speak a lick of English, man. He's from somewhere deep down in the jungles of DF, right? But he's with that. So anyways, I get at him one day. We're chopping it up, and I'm like, hey, remember Shug? He said, ¿Dónde está pinche Shug? I said, he's with my prima. He's like, forget that fool. He was running with my peoples. He ain't one of my peoples. That vato's a fake. He knew what was up. He's a paisa. He knew what was up. He was down. It says, orale, you want to go get him? So he called one of his homeboys, or I don't know his name, the ugliest guy I ever met him on earth. He looked like the guy from Legend, the devil, the little demon. So he calls him. So we went over there, and we did something heinous and bad to old boy. Now, at the same time, basically, it was the Paisas jumping him out of the Paisa car, and myself just beating him up because I can, right? And because I wanted to. I say that to say this. Stop trying to play the system with the gente. Stop being scary, anyone, and saying, oh, I don't gangbang anymore. I'm a Paisa. Because what it does is it gets our people caught up in a certain situation, being the Paisas, and they can get X'd out for that. If you got an ex-Northerner or an ex-Bulldog or even an ex-Southsider that wanted, all of a sudden become a Paisa and try to, make it the easy route, remember, you're going to get discovered. And when you do, they're going to pull your discovery card and credit check you. And that's just what it is. Anyways, for those that ask me the questions, are the Paisas down in prison? Absolutely, they're down. Absolutely, they're with the wiggle. Don't never sleep on our people. I know some of you right now are saying, well, them ain't our people. Hey, guess what? One day you're going to need them, because let me tell you something. The Paisas will be there to back your play against anyone. And I know, as being a Norteño, at that time when I was affiliated with that, we were to aid anyone of a Latin descent. So if I seen another race or another group persecuting or oppressing my people, they were of a Latin descent, I was of a Latin descent, we're going to get Latin active. Orale. ODM, shout out, respects. You know what I'm saying? I might be a lighter shade of brown, but I'm down with the darker shade of brown. It's all good. Anyway, shout out to the Paisas, real ones. Anyone that's been incarcerated with them has good stories to tell. They're down. They'll definitely handle their business. Don't sleep on them. On the streets, what they tend to do is what they tend to do. That's their business. But as far as people going in and incarcerated, if you're a Paisa, if you were born in Mexico, then the wiggle was real. If you think that they're just going to be punked or they're going to go out like suckers, man, then that's further from the truth. That's you got the fools mixed up because they're with that program. You know, I've been against them. I've rocked with them and against them. I'm telling you right now, they sure know how to use a weapon. And that's just it. With that being said, I hope I answer the questions to the people that say, how are the Paisas in prison? They're real. They're down. They're good. They're brown. You know what it is. With that being said, I hope that you most guard. I don't care what you're doing this morning, eh? Put the coffee down and do some burpees or something. That being said, man, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming to you. Remember, at the end of the day, oh, hell nah. It's all about you and your family. It's all about struggling and striving for what you truly believe in and coming up for your people. Period. Plain and simple. If you don't like me, hit me with the thumbs down. If he's going to be the head that wears the crown, I'm going to continue to strive and struggle for what I truly believe in. But if you do like me, you can hit me with the thumbs up, notifications right there, touch the bell. It's all good in the hood. Let's make it happen. Sprinkle in the woods, brother. Bang, bang. You already know what I'm here for. I'm here to bring the black, the brown, the white, the green, the yellow, and everybody. Well, Paisa, I don't know about the pink. We ain't going to do that. But we're going to bring everyone else together so that way we can rock this one out. Shout out to the Paisanos, man. Nothing but love for my Paisa brothers. Bang, bang. Real talk.